Hello and welcome to Unacademy's YouTube channel. Let's crack UPSC CSE English. A very good afternoon to all of you. So uh, this is Venkatesh Emani. I have done my graduation. I have done my MSc Geography from University of Madras. I have 7 years of experience in teaching for civil services. I'm helping you a lot many students these days. I'm passionate about teaching. That is why I'm here. And we are discussing, as you know, we are discussing a crash course on ecology and environment, UPSC CSE prelims 2020. And today's topic, etc. Today's topic is basics of ecology. Yesterday, as you know, we have discussed about the introduction to the syllabus. I have given the brief understanding of the entire syllabus. Then please subscribe this coming to this platform at Unacademy. Please subscribe, you get the subscription from the Android Play Store, etc. You can download this app by name Unacademy Learning App. You can install it, etc. You can also see even install it in the iPad version, the iPhone version, etc. Then you can scroll through all the different kind of courses you have, different series, MCQs, different topics, etc. The current affairs, all those things, etc. Mind you, you have to download learning app, not the Educator app, etc. That is the most important point which you need to remember. So please remember, this is the learning app. Then you will be having access to as many educators as possible here. One of the best educators, the top best educators of our country are available here. People like Ayush Shangi, Mrinal Patel, Siddharth Arora, Rahul Agarwal, Deepika Madam, so many people, etc. All these are available for your preparation. Then as you go through this platform, etc., and the Unacademy platform, you have all the multiple kind of classes, etc., things like art and culture, current affairs, all the different dimensions, streams of the subject, etc. You can have a course on current affairs, you can have a course on polity, MCQs, you'll be understanding about important topics, everything, etc., either by class orientation or by MCQs or by current affairs. All those things are usually available. Then what are the advantages of this YouTube channel, etc.? Is you will be having a flexible schedule. So a very flexible schedule. It is up to according to your discretion, etc. You can study, you can enroll in the courses and choose your own daily timetable, because over a period of 24 hours while preparing, sometimes you need your own specific times. So it is having its advantage of flexible schedule, and you can have this language of your choice. Educators teach in different languages like English, Hindi, Malayalam, and other local languages, etc. You can have unlimited practice. You can retake the quizzes, watch recorded sessions as many times as you need to. You can also download videos to watch later, even offline. So this is the advantages you'll be having of this platform. Then it feels like you are right in the classroom. You can chat with me, you can have the you can have ask me questions, I can help you there. You can learn anytime, anywhere. These are all the advantages. So learn anytime, anywhere, even in the remote areas, etc. You can have these advantages. So that is the advantages of Unacademy. And coming days, etc., with the digital economy booming, I think online is the latest platform. And coming to the subscription as a whole, etc., the most important thing here, the subscription here, whatever the important thing here which I would like to tell you is, there are all these options: 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, etc. I would like to suggest all these either 12 or 24, in the sense that this preparation takes as many years as for so many months. It takes around 20 months at least. So it will be an academy platform. You can have, if you go for this 12 or 24 months, you can have a long-term subscription. So this is, so for a 12-month course, you will be charged around 40,000 rupees. Whereas if you apply this code VE10 from my side, I'm able to provide you a 10% discount on it. So 10% discount on it is provided, and then you will get a 40,000. 40,000 minus 10, 36,000. Similarly, 48,000 minus 10%, so roughly 4,000, 43,200 will be the price over here. So you can download you can subscribe this at the Unacademy platform by using this code called VE10. Yes. So coming to today's session, today we'll be discussing, as I told you, we'll be discussing about basics of ecology and ecosystems. Basics of ecology and ecosystems. So the first thing which we'll be discussing is what is ecology. What is ecology? Ernst Haeckel, he is the one who has Ernst Haeckel, he has coined this word called ecology. Then ecology is derived from two Greek words. Just a minute. Ecology is derived from two Greek words. Yes. So, what is the meaning of ecology? What is the definition with difference between ecology and ecosystem? As we discuss, etc. As of now, what do you mean by ecology? So, this biologist by name Ernst Haeckel, he has coined this word called ecology. So, what is the meaning is? It is derived from two Greek words. Eco. Two Greek words, ecology, that is oikos and logos. Oikos meaning home, logos means study. So ecology, it is a study of home. So what is this home here is? It is a branch of, so what is the branch of home here is? How organisms are surviving, etc. in their environment. So what is ecology? Basic definition is scientific study of relationship between of living organisms. Scientific study of relationship between of living organisms. It's the relationship of the living organisms with each other and with their environment. So there are only two things, etc. Ecology means organism, how they are living each other, etc. with their surroundings. So the surrounding is the home. So these are the two basic things. So ecology here simply means scientific study of relationship of the living organisms with each other and with their environment. So it's the study of organizations as per their home. So how did it suggest you? Two basic words. Two basic words: organizations and environment. That's it. That's what is ecology is. Then it's also a branch of biology that studies organisms in their environment. Usually, while you study biology, biology is from inside of the body, and ecology, etc., will study from the outside of the body with respect to the environment. That is what ecology is. The difference between ecology, it's a branch of biology. Biology, we study about an organism, etc., in the body parts. That is what biology is. Whereas ecology, etc., we study the same organism with respect to the surrounding environment. What is its characteristics? What are the kind of things it does? All these things, etc., is what is ecology is about. That's why, as I told you yesterday, this ecology topics, etc., they have some linkages with biology, which is itself is a branch of biology. Then coming to the levels of ecology, etc., what are the levels you have? So these are the broad levels you have. As you know, organisms are made up of cells. Etc. Then cells will be over a period of time will be developed into tissues. Tissues will be developed into organs. Organs will be developed into organisms. So this might be a more biological part. So from the ecological point of view, etc., an organism, an individual species as a whole, an individual group of individual, so that individual will be developing into a species, that will be one species. Then from species, etc., we can have another level called population. So population means what? It is nothing but number of species of a certain variety. For example, we have census conducted for human population. So census 2011, census 2001, a new census will be conducted next year, 2021. Similarly, tiger census, we will be trying to understand the population of tigers. Then you have population, you have communities. So population to community. Group of populations of different species living together is communities. All the communities living together in one confined area is an ecosystem, and a broader habitat of an ecosystem is called a biome, and the entire biomes etc are located in the living part of the earth is called biosphere, and from biosphere to earth. So this is the levels in ecology. So you can have this, definitely you can have from this you can understand. So individual, from individual to population, population to community, community to ecosystem, ecosystem to biome, biome to biosphere. So what is biosphere? Biosphere is the living part of the earth. So wherever life is existing, we call that sphere as called biosphere, life sphere. So living part. Within this living part, broader domain, biome is a set of conditions where a certain animals and plants are surviving. Within biome, the relationship between plants, animals, etc., whichever you see, is called a ecosystem. Within ecosystems, you have different varieties of animals and plants. So this photograph is from a aquatic ecosystem. We have derived it. So within ecosystem, you can find as many varieties of plants and animals, etc. All these things together, we call them as community. Then from there, within communities, etc., you have one particular variety of a fish. That is population of that. One individual fish is that one single individual which you. So these are the levels in a ecology. So I hope you have some understanding of difference between ecology and ecosystem as a whole. Moving aside. So next topic, ecosystem. So what is ecosystem? Ecosystem is, so who coined this word? Arthur Tansley. Arthur Tansley has introduced this concept called ecosystem. Then what is the definition of ecosystem? It is defined as structural and functional unit of biosphere consisting of community of living or beings and physical environment, both interacting and exchanging materials between them. So what is this ecosystem? It is defined as a structural and a functional unit of biosphere consisting of community of living beings and physical environment, that is living beings and physical the surrounding areas, both interacting and exchanging materials between them. So that is the broad definition. In a simple words, I can say it has three components. Ecosystem is equal to biotic plus abiotic plus energy flow. So biotic is linked with abiotic, abiotic is linked with energy flow. See, the plants and animals, biotic means living animals, etc. Plants, animals, human beings. Abiotic is the surrounding areas, and the energy flow is the movement of interaction happening between biotic and abiotic and among the biotic. That is what a ecosystem is. See, everything is an ecosystem. For example, let's take the class which you are having right now. So you are biotic. There is an interaction happening between you and me. I am discussing here and you are listening it, etc. And there is some kind of abiotic factors which are helping it. For example, can you listen to this with our environment? Can you listen? Can you listen to this point? What is the environment here? The abiotic factor. The abiotic factor is things might be your a gadget. It might be a phone. It might be a laptop. It might be your tablet, or else the internet connectivity or the YouTube platform. All these things, etc., are abiotic factors. The interaction of classes which you are having is a biotic factor, and this is what an ecosystem is. So this is a an online ecosystem, right? Similarly, in a class you can find one variety of ecosystem. A class having a board from a board, etc. You'll be having a light, you'll be having some fan or some kind of air which is coming there, etc. A light. All these are helping in this listening to the class. So this is what ecosystem. The scientific study of students' relationship between you and me. Here, I can call it as ecology. So that's what the basic meanings and definitions of ecosystem is. So its ecosystem, it has three components: biotic, abiotic, and energy flow. There is an interaction which is happening. In fact, this is the most important thing called biotic. Just a minute. So these things, biotic and abiotic, they are interlinked together. Similarly, the interactions are happening within biotic. So this is the point. The ecosystem, the plants, animals, and the surrounding environment, they are completely interlinked together. This is what has changed over the last few years. Why environmental studies as a subject has become a very important one is because in the last, for example, after industrial revolution, the relationship between human beings and the environment have drastically changed. Human beings, which are just a part of this biotic, humans which are part of this biotic, the relationship which they had with the environment has drastically changed. So before industrial revolution, what used to be happen is, before industrial revolution we used to have a complementary role. Complementary role. Whereas after industrial revolution, what happened? After industrial revolution, we have a conflict role. So post-industrial revolution, as you started using industries, etc., as you starting usage the fossil fuels, etc., the relationship between human beings and the ecosystem has become conflictory role, not a complementary role. Before industrial revolution, 1830s, complementary role. Post-industrial revolution, it be turned slowly into complementary role. This conflict role. This conflict has gone to that level that the very survival of human beings now is under question mark. Because the very survival of human beings are under question mark, now there is enormous focus on how ecosystem is being destroyed by human made activities. What are the steps through which you are trying to reduce it? So for example, you take the present climate change. Climate change is a product of fossil fuels which are increased in number in the last 150 years particularly. So this conflicted role is because of human interaction. The human interaction with the abiotic things, nature, resources has drastically changed. Because of this, we are finding some kind of problems. So this is what I am trying to suggest. So the carrying capacity of the earth has drastically changed. As this has changed, as I told you, all are interlinked with each other, they have a harmful effect. Similarly, for example, all the environmental degradation things, whichever we are seeing, is a product of the problems which you face among the interactions of biotic plus abiotic. For example, you take pollution, air pollution, it is a abiotic interaction which has been destroyed. You take eutrophication, the water body is polluted. You take biodiversity, because of man's needs, we are using resources to such extent, because of that, certain animals are lost. So many animals are have been extinct, and so many animals are not now even turning into critically endangered. So that is what I am trying to suggest. What is energy flows? All these are nothing but biogeochemical cycles which you will be studying as part of carbon dioxide cycle, oxygen cycle, water cycle, all those things. So this is what basically what you mean by ecosystem. I hope you have understood this complementary role and conflictory role, the difference between this. Yes, let's move forward. So what I'm trying to say is another point. The entire syllabus of environment which we'll be discussing here is nothing but a product of this biotic and abiotic component in energy. For example, let's say the syllabus. Biomes. Biomes are unique areas which have certain climatic characteristics. So that is, certain abiotic factors are common within a biome. So biomes as a chapter is here. Then pollution. Pollution is how abiotic factors are changing because of human beings. Then climate change. It is nothing but energy flow of carbon dioxide. So similarly, what is ozone layer depletion? That is also one kind of abiotic factor which has been altered by humans. So what I'm trying to say is the entire syllabus which you're going to discuss, biodiversity, the protection of plants and animals, that is part of biotic. The entire syllabus you can see it from the interactions of biotic plus abiotic plus energy flow. And this is disturbed. What happened is, as you turned into conflicted role, we having a problem. Earlier upon, human beings are used to have just what do they need to do, what they are doing. They are only able to use for basic needs. But as the humans have evolved, as man has become from a technological man, scientific man, the technological man, etc., has started exploiting the resources. As he started exploiting the resources, there are as many problems as possible. Then coming to the ecosystem properties. So ecosystem properties, etc. So it represents sum of all living organisms of any space-time unit. So what does it represent? It represents sum of all living properties of any space-time unit. Then sum of all living organisms of any space-time. What is any space-time unit? Space means here places, different places, any places, etc. At any time, either now or in the past, etc. All the living organisms of any system that will be represented by ecosystem. Then here interactions are complex. Where the interactions, the way this biotic and abiotic are relation, that interaction is happening, they are complex. This relationship is between organisms and environment, and also among organisms. So among organisms is what is biodiversity, food chains, food webs, and all these things. How this is interacted, and between organisms and environment is the energy, biogeochemical cycles, the energy flow. Then it is an open system. Ecosystem is an open system. What is an closed system? Which is not linked with the surroundings. Open system which is linked with the surroundings. It is an open system which is characterized by continuous input output of matter and energy. That is the input and output of matter and energy. There is continuously energy is coming out, energy is added, energy is subtracted, all these things, input and output is happening, etc. That's why ecosystem is a dynamic one. Then another point, most importantly, it has a scale dimension. It has a what? Scale dimension. So it can range from a tree to a pond to a even the largest biosphere, that is the earth itself. Even to the largest, that is the biosphere. Biosphere itself is one ecosystem. So it has a scale dimension. A small tree where the birds are surviving in it, etc., and getting the food, and the tree is getting the food from surrounding areas, can be one ecosystem. A small pond can be in its own ecosystem, because ecosystem is nothing but what? Structural and functional unit of biosphere consisting of community of living beings and physical environment, both interacting and exchanging materials between them. You see, apply the definition to this pond. Apply the definition to the pond. You can see functional unit of biosphere. So this functional unit, so the biosphere here, etc., that pond will be having a community of living beings, different fishes. There are phytoplanktons, zooplanktons, fishes which will be surrounding. They'll be interacting with the surrounding areas, the soil, the sunlight, the temperature, all these things, and the materials are exchanged between them. So this is what a ecosystem is. So it has a scale dimension. So these are the basic things of ecosystems as a whole. Next. So this point, as I'm discussing here, another most important point as you're discussing this point, we need to study about this certain thing called, what is this? Adaptation. Adaptation. So adaptation is anything that facilitates survival. What is adaptation? Anything that facilitates survival. So how the animals and plants are surviving in the areas is what you call adaptation. Over a period of time, adaptation will turn into a trait and also a process. Trait and also a process. So what is this trait and what is this process? Let me explain to you. So as you move, for example, as you go into the high altitude areas, you will always face this altitude sickness. Imagine that you are going to Leh, okay, Ladakh, Leh. So Leh region, the region of Leh, the capital region of Ladakh. So imagine that you are going to this region by flight. So you have boarded yourself from Delhi. The flight has taken to Leh. You have landed there. As soon as you landed, you came out of the aircraft and you started running. You started running. As you start running, just after a few minutes, you will be falling onto the ground. Yes, you will be falling onto the ground. Why? Your body is adapted towards the surrounding areas of Delhi, a plain area where there is certain levels of oxygen. Whereas now you are moving to Leh, altitude has increased. As you move there, suddenly there is less oxygen available there. As there is less oxygen available there, your body is not immediately adjusted. It takes certain time to adjust towards the surrounding areas of oxygen content. So as high altitude areas have less oxygen, so what happens is altitude sickness. You'll be facing initially altitude sickness. So this is what I'm saying. So the surrounding areas etc. are varying across the world. Because of that, you will be adapting. This is what altitude sickness is. It takes certain time. Then as over a period of time, you can see athletes. If you have watched athletes, what do? They are practicing in high altitude areas. So that what happens? Their hemoglobin content increases. That means their capacity as a whole will increase. You can see if you have watched this movie Bhag Milka Singh. You can see in that movie where the athlete is running for practice while running. He is trying to he has to run very quickly in the competitions. So for that practice, he is practicing in high altitude areas, so that in harsh environmental conditions he is practicing, so that his body is adjusting and their hemoglobin content is increasing. So because of this, over a period of time, his capacity will improve, and while he runs in plain areas, he will get more capacity. That's what athletes practice here. So this what is happening there initially, etc. Hemoglobin content, why does it increases, etc. Body is adjusting towards the surrounding oxygen. This is what I call adaptation. This is a process. So what is this process? So the way our body is adapting towards harsh environmental condition of low oxygen is a process. And over a period of time, that process turn into trait. Turn into what? Trait. So how? For example, you see people from the coast, people of the plain areas and people in the high altitude areas, the tribals who are surviving in the high altitude areas, if you have the genetic variation is extremely different. What they have is they have more red blood cells to compensate the low oxygen, whereas people from plain areas, they will be having a normal red blood cells content. So the hemoglobin, which is interlinked with oxygen levels connectivity providing to the body, etc., that variations, tribals having more red blood cells is because to compensate the low oxygen, and this has become a trait for them. That means what? That adaptation as a process over a period of time turns into a trait. So this is what we can say, what we call this this word we call that adaptation, which over becoming is becoming a trait. So these things as a whole will be leading to something we call it as evolution. For example, if you have seen right now, there is so much talk of coronavirus, right? So there is that coronavirus is also spreading to our country. There are already around 45 cases which have been reported in our country. So one of the thing which is the more thing here is for India, our bodies, our immune system are much more stronger than the temperate areas because of our surroundings. As the Indian immune system is much more stronger than the surrounding areas. Though we are also vulnerable, definitely, no doubt. I'm not at all decreasing the extent of the worry and the fear. But what I'm trying to say is, one of the thing is extreme panic is not needed, because our human bodies, particularly our bodies of India, our areas, our immune system, because of our surrounding areas of our uniqueness, etc., there is more kind of strength for us. Whereas an area like China on another or in Europe, etc., their bodies are not as adapted to like us. Maybe because there are multiple reasons to it. We have to study this in detail. But what I'm trying to say is the trait of human bodies have we are having more immune systems because of our surroundings than the other areas. So this is what an adaptation is. And this adaptation is of three varieties. It is structural in nature, that is in the physical form. For example, you take rabbits, have large ears to give off heat. As rabbits usually survive in, for example, usually survive in areas like where there is more sunlight, there is more heat which is there by them. They have large ears. As they have large ears, etc., their heat is immediately released. Whereas if you see animals on the polar areas, they have smaller ears so that they have lesser heat. This is an adaptation in their physical form. Similarly, giraffe having a taller neck, which is an evolution which has happened over a period of time because they have to get as much as food from the surrounding areas. Trees are of greater height. Like that, every animal is found only in certain areas because it has that unique adaptable natures. For example, we will discuss this while we have studied ecological niche. We will understand the structural or the physical form, etc., in a much more manner. Similarly, another variety of adaptation is a functional variety, physiological variety. What an organism does. So, structural form is what an organism have. An organism has certain varieties. That is because rabbits have large ears, camels have the capacity to store water. All these things have the capacities because of their adaptations over their surrounding areas. Then snake having venom is a functional unit of an organism. Then presence of toxins in plant leaves. Toxins in plant leaves to repel herbivores. So herbivorous animals are there. Their food is plants, but plant to survive, some plants what do have? They have toxins. So as they have toxins, as soon as the herbivorous is getting this, they will not be eating this. So what is this? This is the functional unit of each and every animal. Every animal does as many varieties. I can have a broad discussion of this alone, physical adaptation, functional adaptation for 1-2 hours. There is so much amount of discussion which you can do on these things. Every organism around the world, yes. Then another variety of pattern is behavioral pattern, migration and hibernation. You can see so many birds which move from Siberian part of Russia and come to India during the winter time. Why? So there is a bird by name Siberian crane. Okay, Siberian crane. Then flamingos. All this, what do? They migrate towards the southern regions in the harsh environmental conditions of winter post November. Why? Because temperatures, as you know, in Siberia go to as much as low as minus 69 degrees centigrade. That is the highest ever recorded temperature in Siberia, minus 69. In Antarctica, we have minus 91 degrees centigrade temperature. Yes, you heard the word correctly. Minus 91 degrees centigrade in Antarctica. Minus 69 was reported, 69 I think, or 67. It was reported in Siberia. So much of extreme harsh environmental conditions. What do animals do? Migrate. Similarly, certain animals which cannot migrate, what do? They go into hibernation mode. Then, if you can see in the grasslands, savanna grasslands, most of the animals migrate from, because there is so much amount of drought between rainy seasons, they migrate from one place to another place. One of the important major national park, Serengeti National Park. The seasonal migration, the migration time, it is an important tourist destination point, and at that point of time, there is so much amount of tourists who are coming to these areas of Kenya and Tanzania, where they see the migration of as many animals as possible. So you type migration Serengeti National Park in Google, you will imagine what I'm trying to say. Why they migrate? Under the search of water. So different surrounding areas, different kind of harsh environmental conditions, different kinds of adaptations is what I'm trying to tell you. So finally, what you need to remember, anything that facilitates survival is what is called adaptation. Anything that facilitates survival is called adaptation. And to another point, adaptation is initially a process to adjusting according to the harsh environmental conditions of the surrounding areas. And for longer periods of time, if you live there, that slowly becomes your trait. So adaptation becomes your trait. You can have as many examples. Similarly, for example, the pigments of the skin. Some people are dark, some people are a bit not dark. Why it is so? Because of the adaptation of the harsh environmental conditions. Because of the pigments, etc., they will be adapting to it. So that is a varieties. Then this is about adaptations. Then next thing we'll be discussing about components of ecosystems. I hope you are understanding all the topics well. If you are not able to understand, etc., please raise your doubts. I'll be seeing the chat. I'll be explaining to you any doubts you have, etc., and I will also be trying to explain you as much as possible. Clear your doubts there itself. So whenever you are having any doubt, etc., try to provide the doubt. I'll be checking that, and then along with it, etc., most important thing, after the session, any doubts you're there, if you are wanted to listen now, and if you wanted doubts, please do ask in the comment section. I'll be replying it. Okay, just a minute. Coming to the next chapter, yes, next point, components of ecosystem. So components of ecosystem, etc. So what is the components? As I told you right now, biotic, abiotic, etc. We'll be briefly understanding about that in detail. Ecosystem, biotic components. That is simply the plants, animals, etc. So the living plants, etc. What are they called? They are called as producers, autotrophs, the green plants, algae, bacteria, green plants and algae. And there are certain consumers which are called heterotrophs, and there are decomposers which are called as saprotrophs. So what is the difference between producers, consumers, decomposers, etc.? Let's see. So biotic components, all the biotic components together we call them as living organisms, the plants, animals, and the microbial things, etc. Together is the biotic component. Remember, each and every plant, animal, microbe has a certain function to do in the ecosystems. There are so many questions which are asked these days because of this, each and every animal, plant, and function, etc. For example, pollination. What is pollination? So the plants, etc., reproduction of the plants is done through pollination. Pollination is helping. If there are no butterflies, if there are no insects, what happens? Pollination will be affected. So if there is no pollination, what will happen? The consequences you can imagine. Similarly, while you study nitrogen cycle, the nitrogen which is available in our atmosphere, etc., it is converted into compounds where they were getting the proteins, amino acids through the food chains is because of a bacteria. If there is no bacteria, how are you able to try to get that amino acids? So that is what this microbial cycle. So what I'm trying to say is, Every plant, animal and a microbial thing has a role to play in the ecosystem. They have a certain function to do, and their function determines the interlinkages. Then primary producers. So biotic primary producers, the green plants, algae and bacteria, which you call it as autotrophs, they are the primary producers. Then certain primary consumers, the herbivores who feed on the plants. Then secondary consumers who feed on the primary consumers, for example, who feed on the herbivorous animals. They are called secondary consumers. Then at the end you will be having tertiary consumers, maybe at the top of the food chain, lion, tiger, all these things, etc. These are tertiary consumers. So you can see here primary consumer, etc. Biotic component, phototrophs, primary producers. These are primary consumers. Within consumers, primary consumers are the herbivorous animals. Secondary consumers, etc. are the ones which feed on herbivorous, etc. Maybe a wolf. Then the next level food chain, etc. Tertiary consumers, etc. and the tertiary consumers, maybe a tiger, etc., a lion. Then quaternary consumers, etc. we can say, maybe I can say this point, a eagle, vulture, we can call it as a quaternary customer. All these are biotic components. Then another important point, decomposers, which you call it is even as micro consumers, saprotrophs. What do they do? The bacteria and fungus which are there, which are the micro consumers, they obtain energy by decomposing the dead organic matter. So detritus and decomposers, these are the micro consumers. This is the living component which you have. What I am trying to say is each and everything has a certain role to play in the, for example, lion, tiger. Why we have Project Tiger? Tiger is the top level of the food chain. This top level of the food chain are called as keystone species, and they have a very important role to play. If they are not there, so many of our surrounding areas will be extremely affected. If tigers are not there, what happens? Deer population will increase. If deer population increases, what happens? Because of it, the entire ecosystem collapses as quickly as possible, as early as possible. I will discuss this topic as a whole, keystone species, in the next tomorrow. So in detail we'll be discussing that. As of now, you try to understand the component of ecosystem called biotic. Then abiotic component. Abiotic components are nothing but the surrounding areas. Abiotic, the environment which is surrounding us, etc. These abiotic factors are divided into climatic factors. See, abiotic, climatic. So within this climate you have temperature. This is the most important one. Then wind, light, sunlight. This is also most important. Then water. See, sunlight, that provides the energy and that also provides the temperature. Then sunlight, temperature. Then we will be having rainfall. Water is one of the most important thing. Then wind. All these are climatic factors of abiotic component. Different kinds of temperature, different kinds of animals can be seen. Different kinds of rainfall, different kinds of animals can be seen. Then other factors, edaphic factors. This is nothing but soil factors. So soil, where do soil is there? What is the pH value of it? What kind of minerals are you finding? What is the topography of it? All these are abiotic factors. We will discuss about some abiotic factors now. Abiotic factors. So what is abiotic factor here? Abiotic is the surroundings, is a non-living environment. As I told you in the last class, in the initial point today, is abiotic factors for this classroom, for the session which you are having right now, is internet connectivity, a gadget, YouTube. All these things are the abiotic factors. Similarly, you are having a non-living environment, etc., which are there. So one of the most important thing abiotic factor which you have is temperature. Temperature broadly controls the kind of things, animals and plants, and the interaction which is there. It is a very, very critical factor. Why? Organisms can tolerate only a certain range of temperature. Beyond that, no organism can tolerate certain range of temperature. So temperature acts as a, what do you call, limiting factor. What is this limiting factor? For example, If I say wheat grows at an ideal climatic temperature of 15 degree centigrade, wheat grows at an ideal climate of 15 degree centigrade. What happens? For example, imagine wheat as a whole is growing in one area, and this is 15 degrees. Okay, this is 15 degrees centigrade. Now, as the temperature decreases, as the temperature increases, what happens? It can tolerate up to a certain point. It can tolerate up to a certain point. Beyond that, the crop dies. This is the range of temperature of range for what do you say? The range for the wheat crop. What happens? This is the ideal climatic zone, 15 degrees centigrade. So around here, the crop will be growing highest, will be having highest productivity. And so as the temperature decreases, the crop will be surviving. It will be production issues, productivity issues might arise, and beyond a certain point, it cannot grow because that crop will not be surviving. As you have seen right now, even a small virus, coronavirus, it cannot grow beyond 27 degrees centigrade. It cannot survive. It survives only in certain areas. It needs a host. It can survive only up to a certain point and certain. For example, if somebody sneezes and if that has a virus, that virus will be there on the surrounding areas. Maybe a switch, a switch or anything, etc. It will be there only for a few hours. Beyond that, it cannot survive because virus requires a host. Another point, similarly, if the temperature increases beyond 28 degrees centigrade, the virus will not survive. Some of the people are very much, recently they are very much, they are imagining that as the temperatures in India increases because summer is approaching, what is then they are increasing, they are assuming that temperature virus will not survive. Yes, to a certain extent it is right, but to a certain extent it is also a false. Why it is false? Because temperature, if a person who has that virus, if he is not coming out of the outskirts, if he is living in his own home, temperature will not be 40 degrees. In the home, it might be 25. So, living temperature also matters. Anyhow, this is what I am trying to say. Temperature is a critical factor. What I am trying to say is every temperature will be acting as a limiting factor for a certain organism. Similarly, for all the land ecosystems, the temperature factor is up to a certain point. For all the water ecosystems, the range of tolerance is very, very narrow. What I am trying to say. So, for water, the range of tolerance is very, very low. Whereas for for land ecosystem, the range of tolerance is very, very high. Why? For example, human body, though our ideal climatic temperature is around 27 degrees centigrade, 25 degrees centigrade, we can survive even at 40, we can survive even at 15. But slowly as the temperature reduces, we cannot survive. We need some kind of clothing wear, etc., which is suitable to that area. Anyhow, that is our tolerance has some good recent tolerance. Whereas for an animal in the water, what happens is the specific heat of water is different from land because water slow heating, slow cooling. Because of that, what happens is what is the highest temperature highest temperature in water body in a day? What is the lowest temperature recorded in a day? What you call it as daily range of temperature. This is very, very narrow for water, whereas this is a high for land. Because the temperatures are not extremes in a water body, the kind of tolerance for these animals is also very low. That's why if any industry pollutes a water body, if a certain increasing of temperature, it is called thermal pollution. Why? Because the animals in it cannot survive if the temperature is increasing very highly. Because the range of tolerance is very, very low. This is what the difference between aquatic ecosystems are. So they can expect a question on this. Which of the following animals can survive with highest range of temperature? You have to apply this concept. Land animal, water animal. Water animal can survive for low temperatures. The range is very narrow, whereas the range for what land is very, very high. Then, so the another example I have given you here: snow leopard acting is only in the Himalayan areas, not in the only in the Himalayan areas and not in the southern parts of India, because snow leopard has a temperature. It has a range of temperature. High temperatures it cannot survive. So only in the very very less temperatures in the temperate zone in the Himalayan it can be able to see. Then next factor, sunlight. So sunlight as a whole, this is the thing etc. which you are getting the food. So plants, they produce food through photosynthesis is only when sunlight is available. No sunlight, you cannot prepare food. Yes. Example, you take corals, coral ecosystems, the beautiful pictures of coral reefs, etc. and all these things. They can prepare corals are only you are finding corals only wherever sunlight is available. That means if this is an ocean, so this is the imagine this is an ocean. So this is land and here this is the bottom of the ocean. So corals will be only finding around here, because sunlight, to what extent the rays of the sunlight, to what extent it can travel through the water, it will be only in this part. So in the early areas where there is less depth, where there is sunlight is passing through it, only there you find corals. So corals are found only around this part. Why? Because corals have a prepared food. You get algae. Corals are a symbiotic relationship of algae. They survive here. So this is an example. So wherever sunlight is there, their plants produce food. This is an important abiotic factor. Then rainfall, its availability is very limited in desert areas. Water is very crucial for us, right? Its availability is very limited in desert areas. So because the rainfall is very limited, you require special adaptations for animals and plants to survive there. So rainfall, it's also an abiotic factor. It is also a limiting factor. Beyond, if the rainfall is limiting, you can only survive there. Certain animals cannot survive in certain areas. So like that, every factor is important. So three major important factors, excuse me, three major important factors which I have discussed is temperature, sunlight and rainfall. Other important factors which are there is atmosphere, gases, geological substratum, that is the soil factors etc. the underneath the earth. Then soil factors. So what is soil factor? It is nothing but composition and structure of the soil, like its chemical and physical properties. What is the physical property of a soil? What is the chemical property? Because the soil, the certain kind of microbes can survive only in certain variety of soils. All these are soil factors. Then geological substratum. Geological substratum is nothing but the ground underneath the earth's surface. Then atmosphere, gases. See, to what extent life is found on the earth? Towards scientists have found, NASA has found certain biological things are even found, certain bacteria are found even at a certain height in our atmosphere. So from the point where at a certain height in the atmosphere you are finding temperatures, to the point where soil factors etc. are found, in every part etc. you will be having this life. This endpoints where life is found, we call it as biosphere. So until now we have discussed the abiotic components. Now the biosphere. What is biosphere? Biosphere is nothing but where simply life exists. If life exists etc. in the atmosphere, to extent where life exists, so it might exist even here also in the upper atmosphere, in the different layers of atmosphere. And NASA has detected certain heights where bacteria are found. So from that point to underneath the earth's surface, the entire thing we can call it as biosphere. What is a biosphere? It is a biological component supporting life on the earth, which includes the lithosphere, that is the rock surface of the earth, the hydrosphere, the water surface of the earth, and the atmosphere, the air surface. The combination of these things, wherever life is found, is called it as biosphere. The biosphere includes all living organisms on the earth together with the dead organic matter produced by them. So this is what biosphere. If you have seen this as a whole, what is biosphere? I have explained here. So this part is biosphere. Wherever life is found, we call it as a biosphere. I hope you have understood all these things. Then let's see previous year questions. Types of ecosystems we'll discuss tomorrow. Previous year questions. See, I told you here basic questions, static. They might ask you questions straight away. So one of the question: which one of the following is the best description of the term ecosystem? A community of organisms interacting with each other. That part of the earth which is inhabited by living organisms. A community of organisms together with the environment in which they live. The flora and fauna of a geographical area. What is the best? This is the question, straight away question from UPSC exam. What is the best description of the term ecosystem? The answer is, yes, think. Answer is C. C. The flora and fauna of a geographical area. We call it the biodiversity, variety of plants and animals. Community of organisms together with the environment in which they live. Ecosystem. That part of the earth which is inhabited by living organisms. Biosphere. Yes, community of organisms interacting with one another. Okay, that's different. Just interaction is not ecosystem. Community of organisms together with the environment in which they live is what ecosystem is. Straightforward question. Yesterday I told you, definition questions which might be asked here are static in nature. You should be able to answer. Answer is C. Then another question, last question for today. With reference to the food chains in ecosystems, which of the following kinds of organisms are known as decomposer organisms and organisms? Virus, fungus, bacteria. Which of them? Only A. One only virus. B. Fungus and bacteria. C. Virus and bacteria. D. All the three. With reference to food chains in ecosystems, which one of the following kinds of organisms are known as decomposer organisms? Virus is not a decomposer organism, etc. Fungus and bacteria. Answer is B. And we will be discussing this point tomorrow. Yesterday they have asked around this. This was discussed today. We will be discussing this tomorrow. And this question, last question for today. Sorry. If a tropical rainforest is removed, it does not regenerate quickly as compared to a tropical deciduous forest. This is because soil of the rainforest is deficient in nutrients. Propagals of the trees in rainforest have poor viability. Rainforest species are slow growing. Exotic species invade the fertile soil. Answer is A. Because in a tropical rainforest there is more rainfall, there is more leaching which happens. As there is more leaching happens, etc., the soil will not have nutrients. As they will not have nutrients, it does not regenerate quickly compared to a tropical deciduous. Rainforest, every day there is rainfall. More rainfall, more kind of runoff, more leaching, less nutrients in the soil. So this is what an abiotic component of soil which you find in evergreen forest. So this is what this question you can say it is derived from abiotic component. Yes. That's it for today. I hope you have understood this. Any doubts, please do mention me. Please don't forget, hit the bell icon, subscribe it, etc. While you are the subscription in the Unacademy platform, please don't forget to use my code VE10. You will get a 10% discount. I hope we have a good time. Thank you. Bye bye. See you tomorrow. Tata.